Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, welcoming you on this 13th day of March 2023. It's a Monday and the weather's a bit cloudy, but I'm sure it will clear up later because summer na. And on today's program, for those of you living in Metro Manila, for those of you who are riding motorcycles, for those of you who are motorists, please do join us, especially today, because we will be talking about a pilot program that is going to be tested by the MMDA and the Quezon City local government along Commonwealth, if I'm not mistaken. We'll try to get a clarification on that because they are working out a pilot program for a dedicated motorcycle lane. Praise the Lord for answered prayers. I have been writing about that and talking about that on the program because it is for the safety of motorcycle riders. It is for the safety of other motorists who don't see the motorcycle riders all the time. So let's listen to our guests later. But first, let's start the day with our daily starter. And of course, before we do that, thank you very much to all of you for joining us this morning. Thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV, followers of Agenda on One News, and viewers on channels 8 and 250. And syempre, doon sa mga nanonood sa Facebook and YouTube, even those who follow us when they are abroad. Okay, our daily starter for today is it's a bit of a joke. To start the week in a positive note, but it's also a reminder, and it goes. It's from I don't know bakit naging Proverbs to, no? Pero Proverbs nakahalo-halo yata ito. But if you want God to laugh, kung gusto mong matawa ang Diyos, okay, if you want God to laugh, tell Him your plan, okay? Medyo it's a tongue-in-cheek statement because many of us make so many plans. By this age, I'm going to graduate. By this age, I'm going to have my first car. By this age, I'm going to have my house. I'll get married. I'm going to put up a business, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And we always forget to ask God, what are your plans for me? Because the plans of the Lord is to prosper you, to bless you, to protect you, not to harm you. And I don't know why we are, me included, why we are always hesitant to always ask God first. Parang parents, no? I suppose it's because of the parental system where we always have to ask permission, and half of the time, if not many times, we get rejection. But God is saying to you, ask Him to reveal His plans for you and stop trying to tell God what your plans are because matatawa siya paminsan-minsan. Anyway, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And the headline for today, PNP probes absence of Degamo security. Okay, the Philippine National Police will look into the reported absence of 5 of the 6 members of the late Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo's security detail on the day he was killed as part of the investigation. Okay, and that is what Colonel Jean Fajardo, PNP spokesperson, told reporters last Sunday. So, ayan, pati na po yung mga security detail, iniimbestiga na. Okay, Good news at the top of the front page. Ewan ko kung good news po ito. Hindi yata ito good news. Iiyak yung mga good news for consumers, for mga merchants. Pero, okay, onion farm gate price drops to 47 pesos per kilo. That is not good news. That is disaster for the onion farmers because this is exactly what the onion farmers were telling the government. If you allow the importation of onions from abroad during harvest time, it will be disaster for the farmers at ayan po, nagkatotoo na. Iyan ang problema. Okay. Another bad news, okay? The oil spill that occurred in off the shore of Mindoro is now floating towards the Verde Island Passage. Yan po ay major marine sanctuary, major area for biodiversity, and unless something can be done, we are going to have a very serious ecological problem. I don't want to be the prophet of doom. I am just seeing the news at the same time that I am reading it to you, but this is going to be disaster. Okay. Meanwhile, okay, people flock to the beach. Baseco Beach. Baka sabihin, saan yung Baseco Beach? Ayan po. People flocked to Baseco Beach in Tondo, Manila to beat the heat yesterday. Ayan. So, yan po ang problema dyan sa Baseco Beach. As you probably have heard time and again, is that the pollution there is quite high and you could get sick swimming there. Okay, eto na naman, importation na naman, and we don't know if this is going to cause disaster. 58,000 metric tons of sugar arrive, according to the Sugar Regulatory Administration member and planters representative Pablo Luis Ascona. 58,000 metric tons of imported sugar have arrived in the country amid questions on the legality of the 440,000 metric ton of approved allocation after Agriculture Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban awarded the total volume of the outsourced sweeteners to only 3 importers ahead of the issuance of a sugar order number 6. Okay, ayan po. And then, in relation to that, okay, Senator Cynthia Villar, who chairs the Senate Committee on Agriculture, is proposing an agri-smuggling court. Okay, kumbaga, put up a court that will hear only cases of agriculture-related smuggling. Ay, ginoo. Okay, meanwhile, center photo of the Philippine Star, female cyclists led by the environment group Pedal for People and Planet take part in a 16-kilometer loop ride within Quezon City to raise awareness for climate change and to observe International Women's Month yesterday. Naku po, kung hindi po kayo naniniwala sa climate change, punta kayo dun sa may mga alagang manok ngayon. They are molting, naglulugon in summer. Usually po ang mga manok naglulugon pag tag-ulan, aray ko. Anyway, government to launch nationwide campaign versus fake news. Okay, maganda pong pakinggan yan as long as those in government are also not guilty of getting into government by using fake news. Kasi marami pong mga politiko nanalo sa eleksyon because they capitalized and funded certain groups, individuals, to promote the distribution of fake news. But anyway, having said that, the government will launch a nationwide digital media literacy campaign in the middle of this year to combat fake news, according to Undersecretary Sherbet Karen Maralit during a Friday forum on cyber safe against fake news. Okay, so anyway, Philstar Media Group bags 2 silvers at Anvil Awards. Okay, Philippine Star Media Group Executive Vice President Lucien D. Tioco, fourth from the right, leads the Philippine Star Media Group contingent at the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. Yun, awarding. Okay, 36 Anvil Award. Okay. And last but not the least, China opposes joint patrols in WPS or West Philippine Sea, more EDCA sites. China has strongly opposed yesterday joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea and expanded United States access to Philippine military bases, calling the moves part of Washington's effort to encircle and contain Beijing through its military alliance with the Philippines. Okay. The Chinese embassy in Manila said that the U.S. keeps upgrading its military cooperation with the Philippines by adding enhanced defense cooperation agreement sites. Okay, yan na po yata. I think that wraps up all of the front page news for today, March 13, 2023. Now, let me just check. Roy, are we going to go for a break for setup, or are we going to whatchamacallit? Are we going to go straight to our interview? Please advise. Okay, we continue with our interview. Let's roll out the Betamax, Roy.
Attorney Melissa Carunungan currently serves as spokesperson of the MMDA. Carunungan received her law degree from the Ateneo de Manila School of Law.
Walang ya, akala ko baby doll, little girl. Graduate na pala ito si Attorney Melissa. Good morning sa imo. Welcome to the program agenda. Thank you for making time to join us this morning.
Good morning, Sir Cito, and to all those listening and watching po.
Okay, when I read about this pilot program of the MMDA to test a dedicated motorcycle lane, I immediately informed the team agenda and I said, please, I want them on board because this is something that we really need in the country. So could you give us the background to all of this? Because Attorney Melissa, there has been so many attempts, so many proposals. Yun ngang EDSA, ang dami ng linya eh. Merong motorcycle lane sa gitna, may motorcycle lane sa kanan. Sabi ko, kailan ba magkakaroon ng tunay na motorcycle lane? Please, take the program is yours to explain.
Yes, sir. So for the background po, this really was conceptualized because according to the Metro Manila Accident Report Analysis System of the MMDA, in the year 2022, there was a tally of 1,686 motorcycle-related road crash incidents along Commonwealth Avenue. Among these cases po, 13 cases were fatal, 930 were non-fatal, and 743 involved damage to property. This exclusive motorcycle lane was brought about through different consultations as well as scientific and engineering studies done by the MMDA. We also had a traffic summit last October 2022, where we invited the different transport groups as well as representatives of the different agencies of the government. Nandun rin po ang representatives ng One Rider Party List, si Kong Bosita at si Kong Gutierrez. After a 3-day workshop, we also presented a simulation of the recommended road schemes that could be put along Commonwealth Avenue. We presented if there was, for example, 1 exclusive lane, 2 exclusive lanes, or kung dedicated lane po lamang. At ito po na ang naging best recommendation taking into consideration all these suggestions at primary considerations po ng lahat ng stakeholders.
Okay, so how is it going to go from where to where, etc.? Could you fill in the questions?
Yes, sir. So, ang exclusive lanes po sa Commonwealth Avenue, magsisimula po siya sa Elliptical Road hanggang Doña Carmen at vice versa. At the rightmost lane, this is already the designated bicycle lane. Beside this po will be the exclusive lane for public utility vehicles. Beside that will be the exclusive lane for motorcycles. At ang mga natitirang lanes po, this will be for private vehicles.
Okay, so you have the bicycle lane. Is that the bicycle lane, is it really part of the Commonwealth lower, ground level, or yung road? Or is it a, exterior part adjacent to the road?
The bicycle lane of Commonwealth Avenue po was actually placed by the LG of Quezon City during the pandemic because there was a rise in the number of people using bicycle lanes. So they created this designated lane on the rightmost lane of Commonwealth Avenue. But as far as we know po, this year, I think starting June, they plan to improve the bicycle lane by making it elevated. But for now po, if you pass by Commonwealth Avenue, it has barriers for the bicycle lane.
Yeah, because abroad, in the many places na I've observed where they have a lot of bicycle traffic, the bicycle lane is elevated, and actually it is integrated into the sidewalk or the pedestrian level. Parang sama-sama sila doon, pero makikita mo na meron talagang clear marking na ito pambisikleta, at yung tao pwedeng maglakad din doon, pero meron talagang pambisikleta. Now, so after the bicycle lane, you have the bus lane. And then you will have the motorcycle lane. And hindi ba nagkaroon ng debate? Were there no arguments? Because I have heard so many counter arguments regarding that design na masasagasaan sila ng bus. Why can't they be to the side of the bicycle lane and just keep the buses and the cars together?
Yes, sir. Kaya po importante noong traffic summit na nandun po ang representatives ng lungsod ng Quezon City. Kasi po they also have plans to put loading and unloading stations for the buses and jeepneys along Commonwealth Avenue starting June of this year as well. So for the buses and jeeps, they will be able to have loading and unloading stations. And the plan is for example, for the bus lanes, for the bike lanes to pass behind these loading at unloading stations. If we were to put the motorcycle lane to the right of the bus and jeepney lane, it would have been considered an obstruction and even dangerous for the commuters.
So it's either or. If you do one design, masasaktan yung commuters. If you do the other design, pwede namang sabi nila masasaktan yung motorcycle rider. So okay, so is this strictly for Quezon City or for Commonwealth? Because attorney, I'm sure you and the MMDA realize that Commonwealth is a wide, wide road. I think it's 6 lanes na yata right now. And while that's good for the Commonwealth Avenue Road, it may not be something we can do for most of the roads in Metro Manila.
Yes, sir. So the exclusive motorcycle lane actually begins from the elliptical road up to Doña Carmen. This is
Yeah.
around 7.8 kilometers in length. However, from Doña Carmen up to Quirina Highway, there's no more exclusive lanes kasi dito po makipot na po ang kalsada. This is around 5 to 6 kilometers in length. Commonwealth Avenue with its 7 lanes is actually a very good candidate for the exclusive motorcycle lane because it is very wide. However, for other major roads such as EDSA, pinag-aaralan pa po ng MMDA since marami pong U-turns. There's also many right turns. However, if the implementation Commonwealth Avenue is successful, by that meaning if it is able to lessen the amount of road crash incidents and secondarily ease the traffic flow, then this can be used as a template po that we can use to study for implementation in other major thoroughfares.
Okay, and how long will this pilot testing happen? And what are the rules or penalties that will be imposed? Because I heard that I think for the first so many weeks, walang penalties, no arrests, but eventually magkakahigpitan na.
Yes, sir. So for the dry run implementation po, it began last March 9 and it is up to March 19. During this time po, they will apprehend the motorists but hindi pa po pagmumultahin po sila to only begin strict implementation on March 20. So on March 20, for all vehicles such as motorcycles, PUVs, and private vehicles, if they leave their exclusive lane or if they enter a lane that is not designated for them, they will be fined 500 pesos per violation. However, there is an exception, which is when they are turning right to exit Commonwealth or to enter the roads or establishments. There are dotted lines on the road indicating that such lanes are no longer exclusive.
Okay, paano naman, Attorney Melissa, yung mga tatanga-tanga o mga probinsyanong katulad ko? Because I recently went through Commonwealth about 2 weeks ago. I have to confess, I was so confused. There were so many lines, so many signs, so many, parang mga traffic, this lane, that lane. And you practically have to slow down to figure out. Mabuti na lang kung laging umaandar yung ways, etc. How are people supposed to know where they are? Are there going to be bollards? Are there going to be ropes, etc.? Paano ba yan?
Yes, sir. So with regard to bollards, this was actually discussed rin po sa traffic summit. However, the motorist groups were saying that baka po mas delikado po para sa kanila kung may barriers kagaya po ng bollards o concrete barriers. So, ang napagkasunduan po ay maglagay lang po ng mga lane markings at road signs. Pero for now, sa dry run implementation, ang isa rin po sa mga challenges ng mga motorista ay ang visibility rin po ng traffic enforcers and their awareness of the new road scheme. So with that, right away, our chairman, Attorney Artes, requested for the production of placards that our traffic enforcers can hold and carry so as to show more clearly the new road scheme. And hopefully, eventually, this road scheme will be slowly integrated into the lives of those who pass Commonwealth Avenue regularly, and they will become more disciplined but to stay within their exclusive lanes.
Okay, now we are using engineering solutions
Yes, sir.
to herd, manage, control traffic and motorists. Now, what about driver education or driver behavior? Because you started your presentation citing accidents, 1,000 plus accidents, 13 people died, 900 plus were injured, damage to property. But I kind of wonder, kasi, you know, having been a motoring journalist in my life, I've heard so many comments from motoring journalists saying most of these who are involved are either kamote riders or malas talaga. So, what about the kamote riders? Those who recklessly ride between, you know, two lanes, etc. Who zip. Yesterday, nasa SLEX ako. Merong naka-big bike na akala niya ay nasa slalom race siya.
Yes, sir. So what we have seen po, that is the cause of accidents along Commonwealth Avenue, is the abrupt changing of lanes, especially among motorcycle riders. They are also competing rin po with bigger vehicles, and so it is also more dangerous for them to have to compete with bigger vehicles. What we saw through the simulators presented by the Traffic Engineering Center of the MMDA is by becoming more disciplined and staying in their exclusive lanes, this will prevent the abrupt changing of lanes as well as competing with with other bigger vehicles. With that, we hope that this type of road scheme primarily will lessen the amount of road crash incidents along Commonwealth Avenue. And secondarily, because of the less road crash incidents, and also lessen the abrupt changing of lanes, it will also ease the traffic flow along Commonwealth.
Yeah, so is there a study on this? Because clearly you and the MMDA know that that's part of the problem, but in terms of accidents, etc., meron na ba tayong facts and figures to, you know, to lead us to other solutions aside from engineering solutions?
One of the solutions could also be, sir, the education po of our motorcycle riders, because what we have noticed rin, sir, is that sometimes they do not go through the proper training for driving a motorcycle. So other than the exclusive lanes along Commonwealth Avenue, we also, our chairman, Attorney Artes, also has plans of setting up a motorcycle riding academy, hopefully sometime on the first quarter of this year. It will be located po along Julio Vargas, corner Meralco Avenue, and it aims to teach basic motorcycle riding skills, kung paano po mag-iwas ng mga aksidente. It will also teach basic emergency responders course. So for now po, that facility is still being constructed, and it will be a free course open to all motorcycle riders. It also has incentives. So for example, if you graduate from the Motorcycle Riding Academy of the MMDA, we have already coordinated with companies such as Grab, Lalamove, Angkas, to give them priority for employment since they have gone through this proper training rin, sir.
Okay, having mentioned Grab, Lalamove, Angkas, etc., the other point, and this just, you know, to wrap up our conversation today. Well, 2 points. Number one is you mentioned street signs, placards. Perhaps you could relay to Chairman Artes that we have too many street signs on the road. Some of them are obsolete. Some of them are no longer applicable or invalid, but they're not being removed. Not to mention pati yung advertising on the streets. But also the appropriate motorcycle displacement, because may mga nakikita akong mga double play ba, kumbaga double roll, angkas or move it na sila, tapos lala move it, grab deliver pa sila, and the bikes are small, inappropriate, they're too small to carry a passenger, and then they have a box in the back. And sabi ko, ito yung naghihintay ng kamatayan o baldahan because if somebody gets pinned between the driver and the passenger and that box, so parang I don't want to be a spoiler but I hope it can be addressed na wag lahat sama-sama kasi at the end of the day, it's a small motorcycle meant for a particular displacement and application.
Yes, sir. So with regard po with the road signs, we are in coordination naman po with the LGU of Quezon City to make sure po that the road signs are clear and accurate po for all the motorists. So maganda rin po ang dry run po so that we can see and assess the situation araw-araw. Actually, every day we listen to the comments and suggestions such as what you're telling us,
Yeah.
so that we can improve po by the strict implementation on March 20.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys can do it also for Metro Manila kasi, I try to abide by the law. One morning, I was coming from the Guadalupe towards Makati and just staying in my lane. And then I realized, teka, bus lane to, paano ko napunta dito? So I had to quickly get out. And there's also confusion. Some drivers say, oh sir, yung portion ng ganito na ganyan, you can go into the bus carousel. Sabi ko, marunong ba kayo magbasa? Nakalagay, bus only. Bakit tayo pwede? Hindi, pwede sir. So anyway, Attorney Melissa, thank you for joining us today. We hope you the best dyan sa pilot test in Quezon City. And we pray for the safety of the MMDA personnel, the safety of the Quezon City traffic personnel, and of course, all the riders because I'm sure this is going to be a bit tense, testy at times, but good luck to all of you and God bless.
Maraming salamat, Sir Cito. Ingat po kayo.
Okay, that's Attorney Melissa Carunungan, spokesperson of the MMDA. We will go for a quick break. When we return, we will listen to the other side of this pilot test. Let's find out from the riders what their sentiments or suggestions are here on the agenda. We'll be right back. Okay, still connected to the ongoing pilot test or run of the exclusive motorcycle lane that has been established in on Commonwealth Avenue. Let's listen to the views of the riders group. We have with us Jobert Bolanos, chairman of the Motorcycle Rights Organization. Jobert, good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Cito, and to all the watchers and listeners. Good morning to all of you.
It's been a long time. I think I interviewed you many years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
It's pre-pandemic, and we're here again. So, with the opening of the society, so hopefully this will be the end ng ating kalbaryo against this dreadful disease.
Okay, now that seems to be going towards a positive note, but what about this exclusive motorcycle lane? I have been pitching, praying, and writing about an exclusive motorcycle lane for the safety of riders, but it seems that finding commonality and agreement on how to apply the engineering solution always raises speed bumps.
Yes.
What's your position, or what are the sentiments regarding the ongoing exclusive lane for riders on Commonwealth?
Well, first and foremost, Cito, let's go back to the history of the motorcycle lane. It's been 10 years. So 2012 was the time they started the motorcycle lane, and they've done so many things, adjusted so many things, changed so many rules, just to make it work. But in the 10 years, the only thing we see effective in the motorcycle lane is really to segregate the motorcycle from the other vehicles. That is what happened in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Now, they're saying that they wanted to make it exclusive this time around. Let's take a look at Commonwealth. Commonwealth has so many establishments on both sides. And these establishments cater to not just people, but also to motorists. Kasi we have gasoline stations, we have tire shops, and all of that. Mm-hmm. Besides the establishments along Commonwealth, we also have numerous roads connecting to Commonwealth. So these roads take in vehicles, and they also expel out vehicles going into and out of Commonwealth Avenue.
Yeah.
Then they put the motorcycle lane in the middle of the private vehicles and the public utility vehicles. Okay, so to call it exclusive is sort of a joke to us. Why? Because people will continue to cross the motorcycle lane in different parts of the highway. Mm-hmm. And when they do that, they cannot just cross from the opposite side of the motorcycle lane and cross all the way to the second lane, passing the entire motorcycle lane. That's a dangerous maneuver right there for any driver. That's a dangerous maneuver. Okay? Especially when there's less traffic, so the movement is faster. Mm-hmm. So technically, you're not making the road exclusive because private vehicles will continue to cross it from the left and from the right. Now, the next thing that we see, every day we've been visiting their dry run since they started, and this is what we see. The PUVs are not being controlled. The PUVs, we can see taxis, vans, UV Express, sometimes the modern jeepneys, and sometimes even the buses. They still enter the motorcycle lane, especially in areas where there's a little bit of traffic. And we don't see MMDA personnel all throughout Commonwealth Avenue, just in sections. Right now, we see a number of them, but after a month or so, will we see the same number like we did in the 10 years that they have done this? So in the 10 years they have done this, every time they relaunch the program, you'll see a number of them on the highway, but after a while, it dwindles down. So right now, what we can see is that they're focusing majority of their attention to the motorcyclists. So we've been doing this for 10 years, especially for people living around the area. So we've been doing this for 10 years. And what we figured out is from the very beginning, the reason the number of accidents got lowered or it dwindled down, it's not because of the motorcycle lane. It was because of the 60-kilometer-per-hour rule. So when they tried the 60-kilometer-per-hour rule and made it strict, that's when the number of accidents dwindled down. Because let's face facts, it's the speed that kills the people. And besides the speed, it's also the condition of the road. Not just the condition of the road, it's also the construction around it. And right now, we all know that we have construction for MRT all over Commonwealth. So, is this the right time to do this? To us, it's not the right time. It's not even the right application. To call it an exclusive, it's like, they make it sound better this time around, but it's going to be just the same. And there's this one section, a lot of people are talking about this. There's this one section in Commonwealth where it's a death trap of sorts. Because there's uneven roads, there's potholes in that area, there's very deep creases on the highway. As in that section is really damaged. And it can cause accidents, especially for motorcyclists. Guess where they put the motorcycle lane on? On that section. And they didn't even bother fixing it before starting the dry run. It's like adding insult to injury to the motorcyclist. Kung ano pa yung pinakadelikadong section, dun pa nila pinatong yung motorcycle lane. And we see very little, if not none, apprehensions, even if it's just a warning, for vehicles with 4 lanes and above.
Okay.
Ang ina-apprehend lang nila motorsiklo.
Okay, that's interesting because I was under the impression that there was thorough consultation. All the players parties involved were consulted and even invited to a 3-day seminar or workshop so everybody could put in their inputs. And so are you telling me that this is an afterthought or this is just a later discovery on the motorcycle group, or what happened? You were supposed to be there.
Tito, they never invited the groups that were opposed to the motorcycle lane. They invited groups by choice of those that will support the motorcycle lane. They never invited MRO. They never invited Arrancada. They never invited some of the big bike groups that oppose it as well, like LERAP. So I don't know what they're telling you, but the fact still remains is they're not listening, nor are they answering to the groups that oppose this program.
Okay. You weren't invited, but were you allowed to at least send in solutions? Because, I understand, okay? In our country, there's always pro and anti. There will always be differences of opinions. And that's why here on Agenda, I try to encourage our guests to submit or present their suggestions or recommendations. Now, did you get a chance to submit your recommendations? And if you did, what were they?
Okay, we did. We have given them more than one position paper. Every year that they relaunch this program, we always give them a position paper. We even gave one to Bong Nebrija, and it was him who presented it for us because, again, we were not invited. But in any case, the suggestion is completely based on existing laws. Number one, make our licenses stricter. Number two, to make enforcement, apply the law as it exists, across the board for everyone. fighting fire with fire, meaning let's put them on motorcycles and let's have them patrol the highway, you know, not just standing in one area at a given time. We want them to go around, you know, just like what they do in other countries, so that we can maintain the discipline of all road users. Because
because the hardest to catch are the guys on the bikes, even on the NLEX and the SLEX. It's the guys on the big bikes who get away with high crime, over speeding, reckless driving, but they're hard to catch because there are really very few patrols on bikes.
Yeah, but as soon as you apply the 60 kph rule, anybody going faster than 60 kph, they're easy to cordon off at the end of the highway. So we've done it before. We've seen it happen before, and everybody follows the 60 kph rule, especially when they were very strict about it. They have stations where they have people using speed guns, and catching all of these speedsters along the highway. And it helped. The number of accidents dropped from 100% previous year to about only 40% the next year. So this is what solved the problem of accidents on the highway.
You mentioned, Jobert, you mentioned getting tougher or stricter with licenses. Are you also addressing that towards motorcycle riders? Because I know for a fact that if you have a car license, that doesn't automatically qualify you to ride a motorcycle, and vice versa. Now, how easy is it to get? I mean, first of all, are the riders, the motorcycle riders, the bulk of them, do they actually apply for a motorcycle license, or lisensya ng kotse ginagamit?
No, they actually segregated now the classifications of vehicles that you can use based on the license code you apply for. So now it's a little bit stricter when the previous administration applied the theoretical driving exam before you get a student license, and you get another exam before you get a non-pro, and then and it goes further after you get to professional. Yeah. But right now it is still not it's still not the same as other countries, the way they do it. It's almost here, it's not impossible to get a license. I mean, you can fail an exam, but you can always retake it after a few weeks. And when you do, you'd be better prepared to answer the questions, and you'll still get the license. And we know for a fact that there are still places you can get an exam that you will not fail. We know that for a fact. And it still happens. But again, that's why we support it with stricter enforcement on the road. And with stricter enforcement on the road, I'll give you one good example. In Subic, everybody's afraid to violate the rules and regulations of the road. So if we can do it in Subic, keep ourselves disciplined and stay away from apprehensions, why can't we do it outside of Subic? So this is one of the examples.
Okay. So what, by and large, what are the big groups? What's your position regarding exclusive motorcycle lane? Because I, for one, I always presumed that it would be bicycle lane on the pedestrian path or next to the pedestrian curb, and then an exclusive motorcycle lane with barriers, physical barriers, and then you can, because they already introduced the EDSA carousel, so copy it wherever, or at least have the bus and the cars in the center. And if you need to do a pedestrian crossing, then put a signal light or something. Because, the argument is always, paano tatawid yung mga commuter? Dilagyan ninyo ng signal light para may tawiran. I don't know. Parang we think in terms of commuters not being able to cross, but we all will also create the system where you're caught between cars and buses.
So let's make it simplified, and let's make it easy for the whole motoring community. The problem of traffic, okay, this is the basis of this. It's traffic, okay? Secondary yung discipline. Okay, let's focus on traffic first. So the problem of traffic is flow. If we cannot maintain the flow, there will always be traffic. What disrupts flow? Number one, stop and go vehicles. Who are they? These are the jeepneys, the buses, because they drop and carry passengers. Okay? But we do not do it in such a way that they have designated stops. They can stop and go anywhere along the road. So this is a major flow disruption. Okay? Private vehicles, they already have a destination. Okay, motorcyclists, most of them, except for the motorcycle taxi and the delivery riders, most of them are also, they also have destinations already. So they enter into a lane depending on where their destination is, and they stay on that lane, much like what the US does on their freeways. If you're going to this exit, you stay on this lane. If you're going to this exit, you move to this lane. So the flow is continuous. And you're not disrupted by anything else. But again, there's still problems along Commonwealth where there's construction, there's U-turns, there's streets going in and out. So we go by the sentiments of DPWH on this one. The first time we spoke about the motorcycle lane in 2012, and up until a few years ago when they discussed the same thing, DPWH maintained their position, which is the infrastructure does not support any segregation lane, let alone an exclusive lane. But it can always support having a lane for PUVs that they cannot leave because these PUVs stop and go at any given time. So the private lanes, nobody should touch them, because they already have a destination they're going to. They won't disrupt the flow of traffic unless they're exiting. But the stop and go should remain on their exclusive lanes. They're the ones that's supposed to have their own exclusive lanes because they stop and go along the highway.
Okay, so, or at least, I don't know, but they've already, even San Miguel has talked about elevated bus terminals, elevated, roadway for PUVs, etc. But, okay, so what about the argument that exclusive lanes is for the safety of the riders?
That's depends on who's looking. Okay. Of course, you put a single group of vehicles in a lane, they look safe, but in reality, you compound motorcyclists together, it's a very dangerous way of moving about. How? Motorcyclists rely on two things. Number one, their braking. Number two, their maneuverability to avoid other objects on the road. So if you put them together, too close together, there's a tendency that handlebars may touch each other. And we all know how many motorcyclists there are in the country. We have at least 15 million motorcyclists in the country, and most of them are in Metro Manila. And during rush hour traffic, we see the motorcycle lane disappear because cars, because of their volume, also occupy the motorcycle lane, and there's nothing we can do about it. But in terms of, having a free flow happening, there's no traffic, the motorcycles are compounded together in that lane, and they're not allowed to move outside of it for fear of apprehension. You're putting them too close together. They lose that aspect of maneuverability in case they need to avoid something. So as far as safety is concerned, we've seen accidents happen along the motorcycle lane in the years that it has happened.
Is there, Jobert, I don't know if you've had a chance to travel before or after COVID, but I in the few trips I've had abroad, I've seen this in Malaysia where there is actually a dedicated lane on their expressways for motorcycles, and regardless of displacement.
Yes.
It's not 400cc only. It's any bike, but you stay in that lane only, and you're safe from all the big cars or buses. Now, in the Netherlands, I've seen this also, where cyclists are the priority. Of course, second only to the pedestrians. But is there a country or a model that you can point to similar to the Philippines, also with a growing population of motorcycles? Because the reality is, we will have even more motorcycles on the road, because cars just doesn't work anymore within cities. They only work in between cities, or etc.
Yeah. Cito, you took the words out of my mouth, no? Malaysia's example, the motorcycle highway on Malaysia is a perfect example of having infrastructure support the program. So here you have put in an exclusive lane for motorcycles only that doesn't get crossed by other vehicles. In fact, no other vehicles are allowed on it except motorcycles. And they have designated exit points. So this is a prime example of where infrastructure does support the program. Unlike here in the Philippines, pininit, they just forced it into us na we should just follow this. Even if they did it in EDSA, Makapagal, it's the same thing. And it's true also that DPWH, when they were asked, where can we put a motorcycle lane? They said the same thing, on the expressway. That's the only place that supports the infrastructure. So, given that, another example is the US. I've been traveling to the US during COVID, and this is what I've seen. Motorcyclists are allowed on the Diamond Lane. And the Diamond Lane is like their express lane for all cars. If you enter it, you cannot exit it.
Okay, well, Jobert, I'm sorry, but we've run out of time. But I think you've covered all the bases, and we do hope that at some point the MMDA and all the authorities can just sit down with you guys, have coffee, give them merienda, and have a pleasant conversation like we do here on Agenda to come up with solutions. Thank you very much, Jobert. God bless you.
Cito. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Jobert Bolanos. And let's go to our blessing for the week. It's a bit long, so I got to rush this one. It is from Book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 21 to 26. My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and they will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your feet will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or the ruin of the wicked. When it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Cito Beltran, wishing you a great week. God bless all of you, and please keep it here on One News.